lot of folks think that it is highly ironic that a prison where people spent a year and a day for running moonshine now sells moonshine as well as bourbon. You know, our biggest sales force may be the members of this town because they all tell our story all the time. I'm forever having people come in for tours, and we have hundreds of folks a week coming in for tours, and people who used to live here are here at least once a month. And they don't tell you at first. They have to warm up a little bit, and they'll be like, I used to live here, almost verbatim. They used to live here. And when they see your face light up that you're ready to hear their stories, they get much more comfortable.
Whiskey can be made practically anywhere. It doesn't have to be made in a factory the size of a city block or in a specific region of a particular country. All you need is water, grain, heat, and time. And no matter where you are or what type of whiskey is being made, you'll find amazing, hardworking people behind it. And much like the whiskey they're making, they've got stories to tell. Hi, I'm Sam Slaughter, and this is Spirited. I've been writing and traveling all over the world, visiting breweries, wineries, and distilleries, all for the belief that we are all connected by what we drink. From the strongest whiskeys to the most delicate liqueurs, it's the people that make them that I'm most interested in knowing. So join us on a journey to discover how the spirits we make connect cultures and people all over the world. Southern Grace Distilleries, located just down the road from Charlotte in Mount Pleasant, North Carolina, is a one-of-a-kind place. The bourbon they make is award-winning and delicious, but there are plenty of distilleries that make bourbon. What really separates them is where they're making bourbon. You see, Southern Grace? They're making bourbon in a former prison. Yes, a prison. Once you get over the shock factor of where you are, you get a chance to really take a look around. As the only distillery in the county, Southern Grace has been a blessing to the community. They brought in scores of whiskey-loving tourists, not unlike myself, to the area.
We're on about 4.5 acres of a 21.5 acre property. We have barrels here in the old dorm, and as we are running out of room, as we look around us, we're going to be putting them in other rooms, like the old barber shop, the old commissary.
Leanne Powell, a native of nearby Concord, North Carolina, was one of the founders of Southern Grace Distilleries and the driving force behind Conviction Bourbon.
This was the original dorm. It was built in 1927, and it was used as a prison dorm until December 2011. Between it being a dormitory for a prison and it being a distillery, it was actually used by the John F. Kennedy Special Warfare School at Fort Bragg to train Green Berets. It was their final exam, was getting into here and getting out without casualties.
Southern Grace utilizes just about every part of the former prison for their operations.
You'll be delicious.
They house the barrels in the former dorms, they distill in the former showers, and no matter where you go on the property, you're met with an interesting mix of things.
Distillation is the process of separating two different compounds based on boiling point.
Marty Koenig is one of the men who helps make the dream happen. As distiller and head of operations, he spends a lot of his time in front of the still, making sure that thirsty consumers are not let down.
So we have beer that we're bringing in here, that big vat number 8 there is all beer that they made in fermentation. And I want to separate the alcohol from the water. So we'll pour it into the pots, one at either end. 300 gallons in that one, about 100, 115 in that one. And then take it up over 180 degrees. I'm going to get the alcohol vapor to come across and keep the water in the pot. So we've had vapor coming up here for a couple hours, gone into this stump keg. That vapor just goes in, it comes down in a pipe all the way to the bottom, so it bubbles up through that, and eventually it gets that boiling, and then that'll come up to the top, go across, same process, that pipe goes all the way to the bottom. It'll bubble this one up, again with old liquor in it, and then it'll bubble up again. So each time it's going through, it's recondensating and then re-evaporating again, so it's leaving in harshness and picking up more alcohol.
Southern Grace is mainly distilling corn whiskey, which is the first step in becoming bourbon. You see, all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. For a spirit to earn the name bourbon, it must be made in America, made of at least 51% corn, and be stored in a new charred oak barrel. What Marty has made isn't bourbon yet, but it's technically ready to drink. Good thing I'm here for a little quality control. I'm not gonna say no to good whiskey. To understand the whiskey that's in our glasses today, we have to go back. Way back. Way, way back. All the way to 2000 BC, when the practice of distillation was founded. Mesopotamians originally created distillation to make perfumes from fruit. They wanted to smell nice. Skip ahead about 2100 years, and we find the first written record of the process. We can only assume in that time at least one person tried drinking a distillate. That's not scientifically proven, but us humans are a curious species, so you can make some assumptions from there. For the next 1,000 years or so, knowledge of distillation crept its way across Europe. The Moors brought it with them where they went, and slowly, people realized how freaking awesome it was to distill things. Christian monks even were trying their hands at distillation around 1000 CE, and it's thanks to them that we have whiskey. The monks took the knowledge of distilling from mainland Europe to Ireland and Scotland. Unfortunately, there was no fruit to ferment, but there were grains, which they fermented and distilled, birthing whiskey in the process. Skip ahead another couple centuries, and we find ourselves in the 1400s. Here, in 1495, we get the first written use of the word whiskey, which means water of life. It was used in some Irish monasteries to say that a clan leader died. Maybe because he had a little too much whiskey. What a way to go.
Being in a small company like this, I get to do so many things. I work a lot of nights, and I like the solitude and having the fenced-in perimeter. Even though if we didn't have a fenced-in perimeter and I was alone out here in the country, I'd be worried that hooligans would be beating on the door every once in a while, thinking we had a bunch of liquor and money for grabs. But I feel pretty secure in here, and Blue roaming around. He lets me know if anybody's out there, and I guess I like it.
I'm always ready for bourbon. Thank you.
Mr. Thacker, can I interest you in some conviction bourbon?
Always. Thank you.
The other reason that Southern Grace exists is Tom Thacker. Thacker is a bourbon connoisseur who has been drinking whiskey and making whiskey for 30 years. He's done a little bit of everything in the restaurant industry and is currently the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President of Southern Grace.
For me, all a really good bourbon needs is one small ice cube in it. That's a sufficient amount of messing it up that it needs. But tastes are changing and other people's tastes are different. And I'm trying to find, some nice, not spirit-forward ways to still enjoy this and get the quality of the spirit out of the cocktail. I think that Leanne and the tasting program and the tourism staff here, what they've done an amazing job is educating people. People come in here who don't drink whiskey, or they come in here and they're all giddy about the prison and the moonshine. You go through a tasting process, and those people end up buying a brown liquor. They've gone from being whiskey curious to being a consumer. When a person who knows nothing about it leaves here feeling like they know something about it, that's a big boost.
So many people talk about the character of the barrel and how integral it is. I mean, it is age, color, flavor, all that. But to be able to see those different barrels coming together, I think is awesome. And I think, do you guys think that you're having people coming in that are able to discern that and appreciate that?
Absolutely. I just finished a bourbon experience tour with folks that are bourbon people. Like they're here because they're bourbon people, and they like that this distillery, as Tom said, that we've built it from the beginning. We've made some really good bourbon that has won gold medals, and we're so proud of the conviction. I mean, to have won Best Bourbon Under 4 Years at the New Orleans Bourbon Festival, and Henry McKenna won Best Over 4 Years, for us to even be in a competition that involves them, it's fantastic. We're so happy and so proud that people like it.
Here, the creativity in that process is in keeping it clean and keeping it to temperature and doing exactly the same way you did it yesterday, because it worked. It's that meticulous attention to detail so that you're getting the same input every day, getting the same distillant every day. And then you let the barrel and the time and the heat and the music, you let it do its thing. If you get those early stages wrong, you've got no shot at a good end product. Barrels make good corn whiskey, great bourbon. There's no barrel in the world that makes crappy corn whiskey, good bourbon. That can't, it's not magic, it's just the process.
Everyone assumes bourbon is made in Kentucky, which is predominantly where a lot of the well-known distilleries are, but
Right.
bourbon's made all over the U.S. And so it is kind of fun connecting the communities and the story to the bourbon.
Dr. Alan Dobson has been in the Mount Pleasant area for years. As the doctor in town, not only has he practiced medicine, but he also has his hands in the realty of the town, having helped Southern Grace secure the prison facility, as well as being behind the creation of 73 in Main, right down the road. Named for the main intersection in town, the restaurant brings people from near and far for their impeccable menu and their wonderful whiskey collection.
You know, I'm a physician. I didn't start out to being a restaurateur, but you see people coming from Charlotte or, you know, other places to dine, and they'll be sitting at the bourbon bar, they'll be sitting, and they'll suddenly start talking to other people that they didn't know before they came in.
I love talking to strangers at bars.
Oh,
After a drink or two, it makes it super easy too.
it does, but they always go away saying, I had a great time. The food was good, the drink was good, but I really had a good time.
Yeah.
I want to come back.
One of my favorite things about Doc, his collection of Dusties. Vintage bourbons from times way before I was even born. One of my other favorite things, he's willing to share.
Old Fitzgerald, it's a 10-year-old aged bourbon from 1972. It was originally made in the 1800s, and it wasn't really available to the public until 1900s, and then after Prohibition, Pappy Van Winkle actually bought this brand and changed the formula, made it a wheated bourbon. And so this is one of the original Pappy bourbons. There's a number of them we got on the shelf that are from the old Stitzer Weller, but this is one of our favorite.
Cheers.
It's really about reestablishing a connection to where the bourbon was made, or you know, the community it came from.
That is some damn fine bourbon.
It is nice, isn't it?
Well, I think it's really cool to see, especially in the past few years, you know, how not only the knowledge of bourbon is growing. I mean, you can't argue that, but like the knowledge of spirits from everywhere, but you know, the knowledge that there is good bourbon being made outside of Kentucky, and that's just strengthening, you know, people's conviction, you might say.
Yeah.
About, you know, supporting local distilleries, and you know, all of that is then just helping funnel it back into the community, and it's fun. It's fun to get around and see all that kind of stuff.
If we can make their experience one that's memorable, that's what it's about. Whether they're having a burger, or if they're having a steak, or they're just coming and having a cool cocktail.
Yeah.
And you know, we've got some cool cocktails done with our local conviction, which is what we try to do. Is we try to incorporate the flavors of this community into what we do.
I like what's going on here. I don't know what's going to happen with these jars, but I'm excited for it. Oh, it smells so nice in here right now.
This is Subwalk 73. It's got the Conviction Bourbon, which is made down the street at the distillery, and spiced cherry bitters, and a homemade cherry clove reduction.
Okay.
That has Cabernet in it as well, so you'll get that bite in there too.
Awesome.
So this is a take on an old fashioned, right? Our version of old fashioned. And then I always like to smell the campfire.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I could drink that all day long.
It's pretty nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is a fine drink.
I'm just slow myself down. whiskey isn't just about the stuff in the bottle. It's about the people that make it, the people that pour it, and the people that share it. It's about the stories that you share over a cocktail and the myriad ways it can bring a community together. You can have a community that comes together without whiskey, but when you have a community that does rally around whiskey, how can you go wrong with that? Raleigh, North Carolina. The state capital and the surrounding area are a hotbed for food and drink culture. Whether you're looking for some down-home southern cooking or something new and fresh, there's a good bet you'll be able to find it here. It's the same for the drinks. There are tons of breweries, and now a good number of cocktail bars are bringing high-end mixology to the Tar Heel State. One of those bars is Watts & Ward, a prohibition-style bar that evokes the Roaring Twenties in every way that it can. Named after the Watts Act of 1903 and the Ward Law of 1905, the bar calls back to the time when the only place to get a good drink was literally underground.
What is happening with the cocktail?
When you guys have gone like 15, 20, I'll go get him the trick of the cocktail.
Okay.
And then we'll cut and bring them both.
I feel naked without a cocktail. Like they both got cocktails.
Hey, Logan.
Yes, but they also do that.
Maybe ask him.
Is your
Jesus
picture?
Christ, he's gonna be whining like this all night, is he? Keep it coming.
Patrick Shanahan and Niall Hanley are the owners of Watts & Ward. Hanley, a restaurateur from Ireland, is the owner of a restaurant group in Raleigh that includes not only Watts & Ward, but a number of other spots around town. Shanahan, on the other hand, comes from a completely different background. He is a filmmaker. Together, they crafted the concept that would become Watts & Ward.
Cocktails are booming and busting and doing everything in every part of the country at this point. Why did y'all decide to make a speakeasy here in Raleigh?
I'd been in film school in New York, living up there, and was going to these like underground clubs. And I'd gotten exposed to the cocktail scene. This is when I was 22, 23, so about a decade ago. And you know, when I came home to Raleigh after film school, I'd found little places like Secret Race were popping off, Foundation was here, a few of them, but there wasn't really something like downtown proper yet that had kind of met what I fell in love with in New York. And so fast forward many years later, met this guy who actually knows how to do these things. You know, it's one thing to have a dream, but if you don't know how to put it into motion,
Right.
it can only go so far. So I went to the master over here.
So Pat approached me originally way back about doing a concept down here and showed me the space, and obviously it lends itself to becoming a basement cocktail bar because it's a beautiful space. And I said, well, why not? It'd be absolutely fabulous. Really, I thought that the building itself dictates to kind of what the concept should be. Pat always had the idea for a cocktail bar. And then between the two of us, we came up with this vision of what a cocktail bar should be. My history in the bar business is typically we have pubs, we have the world's largest beer garden with 366 taps.
No big deal.
No big deal. I know. So the focus has always been kind of like, you know, it's a very high scale, large volume, and this is one of the first times we narrowed it down, put the focus on the actual cocktails that were coming out, and went from there.
Do we want it to be a speakeasy? People call it a speakeasy.
I
I'm like, I don't know if we are a speakeasy.
Yeah,
or
I
a
don't think it was
cocktail
ever
bar.
supposed to be a speakeasy, but obviously you walk in and the style,
feel,
the decor, the low seat, you know. But again, that's the space. The space tells you what it wants to be.
This was a dusty basement, you know what I mean? It had been sitting vacant for a while, and now when I
There's
met...
some great art out of it.
I was painting down here for a long time. We had shot some music videos and...
So you're just hanging out down here by yourself, just painting things?
Yes, painted a lot of paintings
Cool.
in this basement, actually. For his bar, actually. That's how we kind of met. But we sat in these two chairs
You
in that middle
made
room.
him paint in a basement by himself?
Yes,
Did
he
ya?
made me.
Beatings on Fridays and
Forced
Thursdays.
me,
Wasn't
forced.
let out, you know.
Forced me into
Ham
it.
sandwiches and soda water. Obviously, it's trendy. I mean, you know, you can't bullshit yourself and say it's not. It's trendy, right? And there's a shitload of these places and types of these places opening around. I think it's special, or I think it's all on the individual owner to create what's special. You know, you don't hash it. I know there's a lot of love that's gone into this place, and with the staff that work here and how they make the cocktails, there's a lot of love. And there's very creative ideas that pop up that me as an old fucker in the bar business kind of going, all right, that's interesting, you know. And it's kind of good to hear that there's the thought process has kind of changed about what I would consider a simple ingredient, booze. It's just, it's become more romantic, and there's another generation that's thinking about it.
It's interesting, when we started, we had the idea of a speakeasy, but what I really like about Watson Ward, and this was always my problem with those initial cocktail bars I was going to, is they were stiff, they were staunch, it was pretentious, and I didn't like that side of it. I like more the approachable side. So I think that Watson Ward has made it more approachable to, I don't want to say the masses,
Yeah.
but we do scale, you know, it's very large.
Yeah.
It's
Well, but I also think it's
6,000 square feet.
It's more appealing to a different audience. If you think about, as I said, I've been in the bar business all my life. You know, bars are great, bars are fun, but you know, we're about volume. You know, cocktails, a lot of the customers that would go to a bar, let's say your favorite Irish pub in the corner, you're out on a Friday night, you're going to go out and drink 10 drinks and have a great time. You see people coming into cocktail
Do
bars.
people in Ireland drink 10 drinks and have a great time?
Well, the
and still,
Danish are the
like,
biggest drinkers right now at the moment, before you get all stereotypy on
They
the
make great
ambassadors.
furniture.
I
They
was
make
just
great
asking
furniture.
He was
I
going there.
wanted
He was
to
going
know.
there.
Hello.
Nice one.
Right, gentlemen.
What do you have?
We have a cocktail here called in Flanders Fields. This is a cocktail I use to get people who don't normally drink whiskey onto it. This is a bonded, Old Grandad bonded bourbon, Cumel, which we make in-house, a Mediterranean liqueur, primarily with caraway and fennel, and lemon juice, egg white, and a little bit of soda water on it.
Sláinte, boys.
Sláinte.
Cheers.
You chug this?
No, I would.
Clearly, he's not.
He's not a chugger.
No, I laugh and it all just flies up in my face. That's good.
They left the B in this.
No,
one.
those are edible.
They are,
You
but
just eat that flour.
you want to eat the
Have
flower?
that, Jim. You could have ordered the one with the cabbage too.
Why do I have so many cocktails?
Drink them, 'cause you're-
Okay.
You have
I was
three.
gonna drive
You
home
need-
tonight, but I'm not driving anyway.
That's really good. That's really, really good. I think craft cocktails have kind of, as food has over the past even 15 years, I think social media, Instagram have made booze pretty. Our modes of drinking or our methods of drinking are changing. You see people going out now having 2 or 3 craft cocktails, and they're all about how it's being made, the show, sitting at the bar, the presentation. It's become an experience, you know, which like food. So I think that's the most interesting thing that's happening with cocktail movement or world right now. The culture of craft cocktails, how they're presented, when you look at the Instagrams of a bell jar and a burning fir tree inside it, and somebody introduces a canary and it explodes, you know, I mean, this is what you want. This is what you want, and this is sometimes
I
the
do want an exploding canary.
Well, of course, they're a lot of fun. You have to have
if,
one,
if
you know?
that is the bar that you want me to go to, I will.
They call
go
it the coal
find
miner.
a-
They call it the coal miner. It's really good.
Let me ask you a question about cocktails. Do you find yourself with like a lot of the new stuff that people are trying, the experimentation, do you find that people are pushing cocktails forward or making them more complicated than the simplified stuff that we saw in the beginning?
I think a lot of it is complicating things. I love when I can get a layered cocktail, but when it's 9 ingredients for the sake of 9 ingredients, it makes it difficult for no reason.
Yeah.
And I love being able to come to a bar like this and seeing a 6 ingredient cocktail that has, 2 whiskeys, some citrus, some sweetener coming together, and it makes a good cocktail without pretension, without any of that
Over the top aspect.
Yeah. Whiskey is a wonderful thing. It's an art, a craft, a lifestyle. Through whiskey, you can find passion, love, and dedication. You can be introduced to new friends or cozy up with someone you've known for years.
Try it and they're like, oh, I can drink anything.
That'll wake you up. Y'all are tasting, I'm drinking. It's a subtle difference, but one the industry recognizes. Thank
There you go, sir.
You can find stories that span generations and tales that have yet to be told. Wherever you go, whiskey will always be there, ready for the next adventure.
I heard the term conscious consumption. Actually, I've heard it quite a few times, but I think that's a
I have never heard that.
conscious consumption. What are you putting in your body? What are you drinking? What do you eat? This is what you're talking about.
It's fair.
I mean, I
Conscious
am
consumption.
consciously putting a lot of alcohol into my body.
Well, but that too, but also it's like fine tuning. It's like going for a big meal at a buffet or going to a fine dining meal and having something that's spiritier and less of. If that makes any sense. And I think there's a niche in that market for people that aren't big boozers. I don't want to go out into a packed bar, but I want to go to somewhere that's very cool, that's very nice, that I can have something that's very tasty.
Cheers.
Salute. Very good.